Hey, I'm Andrew with 10 Minute Therapy, and in today's video, we are going to pick up and continue with the theme of common parenting mistakes. Now, just to recap where we left off, the truth that you and I both know is that as parents, we are never going to get it right 100% of the time. But the truth is, your child, my children, they don't need us to get it right 100% of the time. They don't need perfection. What they need is for us as parents to be willing to continue to learn, to continue to strive to be better, to teach them well, to connect with them well, so that one day that goal of our children being independent, well-adjusted adults is realized. So I think one of the best ways we do that is starting by recognizing some more common parenting mistakes. So without further ado, let's start the clock and we'll get right to it. So as we jump back into common parenting mistakes, again, the goal is not perfection. It's recognizing within myself my own weaknesses, my own shortcomings, maybe my own personality and temperament, the things that set me off. Before we dive into our list of things today that we'll cover in this list of common parenting mistakes, I want to challenge you to do something. I want you to stop and consider, what do you think are your biggest pitfalls as a parent? What are the things that trigger you, that set you off, that cause you to jump to anger too quickly? What are the things that maybe stir inside of you faster than others? Likewise, what are the areas of your own strengths? What are the areas where you excel? The things where you're able to stay patient and calm and connected. You're able to teach well. See, I think instead of just looking at what common parenting mistakes are, I think additionally, this is best received when we know ourselves well enough to know where we struggle and where we do well. What strengths we have so that we can build on those strengths. But also, what are my weaknesses? What are the areas where I'm most likely to struggle as a parent? If I know these things, if I'm able to identify them, then taking on this list of parenting mistakes helps me to better assess my own heart and mind, to know where I personally need to grow. The reality is, while this is a list of common parenting mistakes, every one of us is different and functions differently within our own lives as individuals, within our marriages, and within the realm of parenting and our relationships with our children. So again, I want to encourage you just to take a step backwards today and take a couple minutes to assess your own heart and assess what are your strengths and weaknesses as a parent. What are the areas you excel in and how do we build on those? And what are the areas of weakness, the areas where you say, this is where I need to grow the most. This is where I trip and fall the most as a parent. If you're able to assess that, then this list becomes 10 times more helpful because you'll know which of these items are you most likely to fall into. So one of the most common parenting mistakes that I run into as a counselor, someone that interacts with parents on a regular basis and has conversations with parents about ways that they can relate to and connect to their children, has to do with the difference between discipline and punishment. You see, so many of us grew up with parents that relied on punishment as a way of teaching. Punishment, much like the word punitive, incorporates the idea of fear and a negative consequence with the hope that that alone will not only instruct but teach my child not to make said mistake again. Now, I'm not saying there's never a place for punishment in life, but if our primary tool of teaching our children is to punish them, to bring shame, fear, regret, maybe even pain, if we're honest, to our children with the hope that from that they learn not to make that same mistake again, then what we end up doing is parenting a lot more in that authoritarian style that we briefly discussed in our last video. And the problem there is that our children learn to not do a behavior, not commit a certain action, not speak a certain way or act in a certain way, simply out of fear of the repercussion, rather than wanting to teach them what the right way might be. So the difference, I think, between discipline and punishment is that punishment is punitive. It's meant to bring shame and fear and a negative consequence so that our children desire not to feel that way again. And again, I'm not saying there's not a time and place for that in the right setting. But discipline, on the other hand, is a far more instructive tool. Discipline, it's not about punishment, it's about teaching. When our children do something that we need to correct, and correcting is a common part of parenting, the correction requires that we teach them the right way to do something. And we help them repeat that right way over and over again until it becomes part of their DNA, part of the way that they live their lives. And this could be applied to anything from an action like cleaning their room, putting up towels, doing chores, to the way they speak to us respectfully and the way they treat their siblings with respect and honor and care and gentleness. And so if all we do is punish and incorporate fear and let fear do the teaching, we've taught our children that there are consequences for acting a certain way, but have we gone the mile of teaching them the right way to act? And so common parenting mistake number 4 that we start off with today is relying too much on punishment rather than allowing discipline to be a primary tool of teaching in the lives of our children. Common parenting mistake number 5, not apologizing to your child. Now, this is one that I frequently bring to the attention of parents because I believe it is one of the most important things that you and I have the opportunity to do with our children. Not apologizing to your child is one of the most common mistakes you will ever make. Let me explain it to you like this. As a parent, I wonder how many of you would say that an important thing you want to teach and impart upon your child is the ability to accept responsibility when they've done wrong and apologize and take ownership for it in order to make amends. I've yet to meet a parent that does not want their child to gain that social responsibility and awareness and that emotional intelligence to say, I was wrong for saying or doing this, and will you forgive me? That is a mark, a hallmark even, of emotional intelligence and emotional maturity. So all of us as parents can agree that that's something we want our children to be able to do. And yet I wonder how often as parents do we model that exact behavior that we are wanting to see in our children. In other words, if I want my child to have the emotional maturity and intelligence to, in humility, admit when they are wrong, accept responsibility for that wrongdoing, and ask for forgiveness, how can I ask them to do it if they have not seen it first modeled in me? A couple videos back, I shared a quote from the great Dr. Karen Purvis, which stated that we cannot lead children on a journey that we have not taken ourselves. Here again, if I haven't taken the journey myself of developing the emotional intelligence and the emotional maturity to, in humility, accept when I'm wrong, admit verbally out loud to those I've offended that I was wrong in how I spoke or acted, and then ask for forgiveness, how can I lead my children on that journey to practicing that? And how important is it that our children learn and grow in such a way that they can develop the humility to accept responsibility for their words and actions and admit when they're wrong and ask for forgiveness? So, common parenting mistake number 5, not admitting you're wrong to your children and apologizing to them when you've done wrong. Now, let me throw one last statement out here, because a number of times that I've recommended this to parents, I've gotten a very quick, sharp feedback from them saying, doesn't that weaken my position as a parent if I admit that I'm wrong? Doesn't it weaken my authority if I admit I'm wrong to my child? Let me be clear that if that question is resonating in your head and in your heart today, that is the voice of pride speaking. And that voice of pride is not going to mend the relationship with your child caused by your own actions, attitudes, and words. You and I are not perfect. And as parents, we will make mistakes. There will be times we lose our tempers and we say things we regret. There will be times we don't pay enough attention or prioritize our children's needs enough because we're human and our own selfish hearts have other things that capture them at times. So one of the most important things we can do is admit that we demonstrate humility to our children. We say, son, daughter, will you please forgive me? I lost my temper. I should not have spoken to you that way. You don't deserve to be spoken to that way. And we demonstrate humility. It doesn't weaken our position, our authority as parents would we admit we're wrong and ask for forgiveness. Instead, it strengthens the bond, trust, and relationship that we hold with our children. So again, common parenting mistake number 5 is not apologizing and admitting you're wrong to your child. Common parenting mistake number 6. Simply put, that we rely on things like time out rather than time in. Now, many of us grew up in an era when a timeout was a pretty common parenting discipline technique. Your child messes up, you put them in timeout. Maybe timeout is standing in their corner. Maybe it's standing with their nose touching the wall. Maybe it's simply going to their room. Whatever the specific approach to the timeout, the message that comes in a timeout is pretty simple. You've messed up so bad that I can't even look at you. You should be ashamed of the words you're using and the way you're acting, so much so that you can't even be in my presence. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Andrew, that's a little bit harsh. I've never spoken such words to my child. But the truth is, the message that gets embedded in the hearts of our children when we put them in a time out is that your actions and words can be so despicable, so disgusting, that I can't even be around you, that you have to act right to earn my attention and my time and being in my presence. And listen to me, dear parents, nothing could be farther from the truth. The truth is, when our children misbehave, they often need more of our time and attention, not less of it. That if we want to teach our children emotional maturity and growth and developing that healthy independence and all the things we've been discussing in these videos, then more of our time and attention is needed, not less, not casting them out of our vision, not putting them away from us, but saying, you need more of me, son, daughter. The way you're acting is not right. It's inappropriate. So you don't need less of me. You need more of what I have to offer you. So hear me. This is a very attention and time intensive approach to parenting. But one of the best things you can do in the life of your child is not to discipline them by casting them away from you. That's using punishment, shame, fear. But to draw them into your presence. When your child is misbehaving, that you get down on their level, you look them in the eye, you put your hand on their shoulder, and you say, hey, what's going on in your heart right now that's causing you to act this way? You get on their level and you connect with them. And instead of a time out that says, you're too shameful to be in my presence, it says, man, your behavior's all over the place. You need more of my emotional regulation, my emotional intelligence and maturity. You need more of my calming presence to learn from me and grow from me. So common parenting mistake number 6 is relying on old techniques like a timeout that shames and casts your child into fear and teaches them that they have to earn your time and attention, rather than using something like a time in to connect with your child, mend the relationship, and share with them your emotional regulation, health, maturity, and intelligence. So don't cast your children into a timeout. Invite them into your presence. Give them your time and energy, your eye contact, your safe touch, and teach them discipline, not punish. Pull them into your presence with a time in instead. So to wrap us up today, let's just do a quick recap first. Number 1, rely on discipline, not punishment. Punishment is punitive. It casts your child into shame and fear. It teaches them what not to do, but it doesn't teach them what to do and why, and it doesn't help them practice that. So rely on discipline. Teach your children how to act, how to speak, and practice it with them. Number 2, don't ever miss an opportunity to admit to your child that you were wrong. It doesn't weaken your position as a parent or your authority as a parent. It demonstrates humility to your children, something you want them to catch on to. We can't ask our children to own their actions, words, and ask for forgiveness if we don't first demonstrate to them and model to them how to do that. And last but not least, don't cast your children into timeout and teach them that they have to earn your time and attention in your presence. Instead, give of that freely. Rely more on something like a time in. Spend time with them, connect with them, mend the relationship, teach them, use every opportunity that you have. because these days are short and they will be gone before you know it. I'll leave you with this final thought today, the end of this message on common parenting mistakes. At the end of the day, again, your child doesn't need you to be perfect, but they do need you to strive to be better. Maybe better than how your parents parented you, maybe better than how you parented yesterday. If we're self-examining and we can assess our own hearts, we can lean into our strengths, we can improve upon our weaknesses with the goal that we bring our best self to the table every day for our children because they need that, they desire that, and they require nothing less. So, thank you for spending this time with us. We're going to continue next week down this road of parenting by examining some other common parenting mistakes, along with some things that we can do correctly as parents to help discipline, guide, and teach our children. I'm Andrew with 10-Minute Therapy. God bless. So to wrap